this is your first time here? Let me see a show of hands. Yeah, okay, yep. Welcome to you all. It's good to have you. It's sort of strange for me because I see different parts of my life coming together. You know when that happens and you're like, hey, this is not where I normally see you, and my gosh, you financial advisor sitting in here, and good friends and people I've done work for and whatnot. So it's sort of a colliding of worlds, and it's really, really good. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joseph Tumasian. My doctorate's in theology, and I was in seminary for 9 years before I went into education, and then left to start some companies. And I live with my wife Maria, and we have 4 small children. 2 of them have fevers, and the other 2 refuse to wear pants. And that is my typical morning. Any of you grow up in the country, or on a farm? Sheep? Anybody raise sheep? No? I know a couple sheep herders. And you know that picture of Jesus, one of the oldest pictures of the Good Shepherd, where he's carrying the lamb on his shoulders? Why is he carrying the lamb on his shoulders?
Because he broke the legs.
Because he broke his legs. Why?
Because he was wandering.
He was wandering one too many times. So this wasn't a sheep that lost its way and he had to go out and find him. This is a repeat offender. And so Good Shepherd, that crozier, that staff with a little hook on it, hobbles the sheep. Of course, the sheep can't walk, so he picks him up and puts him on his shoulders. So if you talk to these shepherds today, like Central America or in the Amish community, what's it like being a shepherd? They say smelly. Well, why? Because they poop on you. Like, holy smokes. If that isn't fatherhood in action, I don't know what it is. Spend your life smelly, covered in poop, and having to discipline your children because of their repeat offenses of wandering. So, pastoral formation for men to be pastor. It's a sort of a crazy thought. But as men, I got my notes here, otherwise I'm just going to keep talking and wander in all directions. As men, we are the priests of our family by virtue of our baptism. We are priest, prophet, and king, made in the image and likeness of our Lord, and adopted through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And so, by virtue of our baptism, we do fall into that priest, prophet, and kingship. And part of our priestly life is to be the spiritual head of our family. You guys have all heard this in some context or another. But have you internalized it? What does it mean to live as a priest for your family? Because my buddy who was here earlier, Father David, he just took off. His priestly vocation is different than ours in that he's a sacramental minister, and we are sacramentalists, but don't provide sacramental ministry per se. And so when we hear the word pastor, we think of priest, but the church has always taught that the first place pastoral care happens is not the parish, but it's in the home. Before a child ever meets a priest or anybody in ministry, they encounter Dad. I had this spiritual director in seminary, Monsignor William Cleves. I don't know if he was actually brilliant or if he just memorized a bunch of sayings and repeated them at the appropriate times. My guess is a little bit of both, but he had these sayings that he would repeat in different contexts, and primarily it was, Mom is the first source of unrequited love of children, right? Baby was part of the body. So mom instinctively is going to demonstrate love and affection to the child. Whereas I didn't even like my kids for the first 6 months of their life because all they did was poop and cry. I had nothing to do with it. But it wasn't until they started to develop their own personalities and interact and whatnot. And that's something that men, we don't talk about. You've got a 14-month-old, right? Some of us have new babies, others, they're out of the house. But what happens when a child is born is we have no relationship. I don't even like it. It keeps me awake. I can't have sex. It's a terrible setup. I've been tricked. My life as husband has to be directed to my wife. To my wife. If I'm focused on the kids, I'm failing. It seems counterintuitive. But my vocation as a man is husband and father. It's secondary. If I don't have a right relationship with my wife, the children will suffer. If I don't have a right relationship with my children, my marriage suffers. If I'm focusing more on my children, in psychology it's called triangulation. They step in between my wife and I and become an obstacle instead of demonstrable fruit of that marriage. And so being a pastor means having the right relationship with your family members. That's your wife first. That's your wife first. And we all know this instinctively. There's something about it. It feels like there's a bit of tension, but at the same time, you're like, yeah, there's something to that. Because what happens? Your children are toddlers. Wife is focused on the child because that's her role. And then there's a little bit of resentment. She's paying more attention to the kids than she is me. We've all felt that, those of us with children. You know where that exists, right? And it can cause some tension. But remember, she is your obligation first. And when that is ordered appropriately, everything else in the family system stems from that. A husband is first pastor of his family, and the first that they will ever know, not by title, but by presence, sacrifice, and spiritual leadership. There's 3 points I want to make. The first one, the domestic church, the husband is the first pastor. And the church speaks clearly about this. The Second Vatican Council, there's a document called Lumen Gentium, the light of the people. And it describes the family as the domestic church. Meaning, church, as we know it, we say, I'm going to church. It's the building. And if you've ever been to some chintzy retreats in high school or whatnot, no, the church is the people. Yeah, that's true. But the church is a collection of churches, of domestic churches. And when that is ordered, the church as a whole thrives. John Paul II deepens this teaching in Familiaris Consortio, explaining that parents are the first heralds of the faith to their children. Faith is mirrored in children by the behavior of parents. You can talk about it. I'm a theologian. You'd think I would talk more about God in the house. I don't. But I try to live that faith in very real ways in the church, as we're Catholics, and some not yet, but will be. We know that the church provides us a worldview, a lifestyle, a direction. We have the liturgical calendar. We have seasons. We're in Lent right now. It provides us an opportunity for behavioral components. We bring that into our family. We create that liturgical calendar very intentionally for our families, our children. The Catechism, if anybody cares, it's 1656, echoes this teaching that the home is a place where children first learn prayer, forgiveness, and virtue. In the church's understanding, the household is not a spiritual waiting room until Sunday. math number of hours in the week. I don't know, ask these smart guys how many there are. We ask one of obligation to go to church. That doesn't mean you're only Catholic an hour a week. If I am not intentionally putting Christ at the forefront of my decision making, if that is not second nature to who I am as a person, I am failing as a Christian. Not because I'm bad, but because I haven't been trained. I haven't been formed. And so men think that you have to go through this formation, some sort of formation, in order to be ready to be a husband and a father. You don't. Being married, being a father, is the formation. When I left, better example, I have a brother-in-law who was a priest. And the week that he was leaving priestly ministry, he would say things like, oh, I know all about how women behave. I'm going to have no problem finding a wife, blah, blah, blah. They just need to be heard. And I'm like, they're there. It's sort of like being a theologian in that I can tell you all about God. I can read his history. I can tell you his resume. Doesn't mean I know who he is as a person. If you don't enter into relationships with your wife and your family, you can know all about them. It doesn't mean you know them. And so, entering into that relationship, into marriage, being a father, that is where you are formed to be the person that you are called to be and that your family needs. I'd be a mess without my wife. Prisoner. Selling drugs. Your children will learn what God the Father is like by watching you. If fatherhood is stable, God seems trustworthy. If fatherhood is distant, God seems almost absent or entirely absent. If fatherhood is harsh, God becomes frightening. And if fatherhood is strong and joyful, God seems good. Your relationship with your wife and children have a direct impact on how they experience God the Father. Because if my own earthly father can't be present and loving and kind and joyful and patient, how can this invisible God that I've never met in my life be perfect? Bullshit. I'm not buying it. I've never experienced masculine love in a healthy, ordered way. How in the world can I trust that the invisible sky God is going to be any better? You guys control the faith of your children without even saying a word. Children that grow up in single-family households, if mom is prayerful, they've got something like a 20% chance of continuing in the faith. In a married household, if mom only goes to church, it's slightly higher, around 25%. If dad goes to church and prays and strives for virtue, 75% chance likelihood that your children are going to stay in the faith. 75%. That's insane. And it's only by you being present and living your life as a Catholic man. That's all. And how you relate to them is how they're going to perceive God the Father. And pastoral formation happens in the ordinary. Men often imagine leadership as dramatic, but pastoral leadership is the home. In the home is usually quiet and repetitive. It's in the boring stuff. Dad gets up every day, makes the coffee, puts the news on, opens up the breviary first thing. Kids come downstairs, see dad praying the breviary. Before dad picks me up at school, he's in the adoration chapel for a half hour, 45 minutes. I know that he's there. I know he's praying for me. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be overly pious. I'm not the most pietistic person. I find overt showiness of faith testable, actually. Don't show me as if you are cosplaying a Catholic. Internalize that stuff. Make it real. If it's not transforming who you are, if you are putting on a uniform and saying, look how holy I am, we're done. We're done. A pastor of a parish preaches once a week, but the pastor of a household preaches every day by how he lives. How do you treat your wife? Tuesday, Beata, my second eldest, she said, Dad, sometimes you yell at Mom and I don't like it. I said, I do? She said, yeah. I said, when? I said, well, sometimes at night when she's asking you questions about work, you say, Maria, I'm not talking about it right now. I'm like, I guess I do. They watch. They watch. And for me, it's like, yeah, I'm trying to create a work-life balance, and Maria wants to talk about work until all hours of the night. But what they heard is, Dad is scolding Mom. And I felt about this big. And I need to change that. Yeah, you're right, Beata. I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. I'll apologize to Mom when I get home. Pastoral formation happens in the ordinary moments. Leading grace at dinner, even when everybody's tired. Apologizing to your children when you lose patience. Boy, that apology. Hey, you know what, Beata, you're right. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Shows them Dad is not perfect, but he's striving. He's continuing to try. And what does that teach them? I don't have to be perfect either. But I can keep trying. I don't have to be perfect for Dad. So I don't have to be perfect for God the Father, and He's still going to love me. Teaching your children forgiveness, mercy, respect, kindness, gentility. This all affects how their little minds enter that relationship with the Trinity. JP2 called it the school of humanity, the family, where children first learn what love, discipline, mercy, and responsibility look like. Children are not formed by our speeches, they are formed by our patterns. What does Dad consistently do? What are his habits? Does he yell at me to do my homework, or does he help me with my homework? Does he yell at me to take the trash out, or does he show me how? Does he yell at me to pick up my stuff in the room, or is he in there with me? And I am bad at all of that. I am bad at all of it. Just do what I say. We'll all be happier if you just do what I say. But that's not how their little minds work. Just follow the 10 Commandments, men. Just do it. Stop looking at porn. Just stop doing that. Not as easy when somebody's just yelling it at you. Let me walk with you. Let me show you how. That's being a pastor. That's being a pastor in your domestic church. And I am crap at it. Fatherhood is the forge of the man. I told you many men believe they have to be fully formed before they leave their families. Nonsense. Patience grows because children test it. Humility grows because fathers must apologize. Must. Not, this isn't an obligation, or this isn't a request. You must apologize to your children when you're wrong, because you're wrong a lot. And to your wives too, because she's right more than you're going to admit. Courage grows because someone smaller depends on us. God does not simply give men families to lead, he gives men families to form them. That is our task. We are formators. We are being formed as well. Second Vatican Council in Gaudium et Spes teaches that the human person discovers himself through the sincere gift of self. Father Dore touched on this last time. Fatherhood is one of the clearest places where this truth becomes real. The human person discovers himself through a sincere gift of self, the outpouring of self for the good of other. That is the definition, that's the Catholic definition of love, right? An outpouring of self for your good. I learn what kind of man I am by how well I do that. If I'm not good at that, I know that there's some room. If I'm really good at it and I have some margin there, I can help others to get to the same place. A man does not become a father when he has a child. He becomes a father through the sacrifices he makes after he has a child. So your children will have many teachers in life, coaches, professors, priests, mentors, but they'll only have one you. And whether you realize it or not, we're already forming them. The question is not whether we are pastors of our homes, but the kind of pastors we are becoming. We all have experiences of a crappy priest who doesn't really want to do anything. He's curmudgeonly and just wants to hang out. Leave me alone. Go talk to the secretary. She'll take care of it. It's like the kind of dad you are. Go talk to your mom. She has the answer. I do that. I don't know. Go talk to your mom. Are you a curmudgeonly old priest in your house? Because you know, they're not the popular ones. They're not the ones that people want to be around. And the greatest marker of the success of a man is whether your adult children want to come back and spend time with you voluntarily. If you have adult children and they want to come home and hang out with mom and dad, you have succeeded. Future begins in our homes, gentlemen. Any questions?
You have a bumper sticker that says, priest preaches an homily once a week, and you do it every day at home. I like that. Did you come up with it?
Yeah. I don't know that I put it on a bumper sticker. Right next to
T-shirt, something like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you, man.